All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless me here talking real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. All right, so that time Garth Brooks got called out by Eric Church for lip syncing back in 2017 at the CMAs. The CMA Awards only a couple weeks away for you country music fans. Back in 2017, Garth Brooks admits to lip syncing, and Eric Church, who probably should have won Entertainer of the Year that year, calls him out. Very interesting moment. So Garth wins Entertainer of the Year pretty much for existing. We know Garth and his politics. We know Garth and the thing. He sets up a tent before the concert. I mean, he's such a do-gooder, right? He's doing good. You know what Garth cares about? The collective. Garth wants to do the best he can for the collective, right? So he wins Entertainer of the Year for the 6th time. He's won it once more since then, too, since 2017. Garth Brooks, because he still exists, all right? You know, Garth Brooks is kind of like the Bruce Springsteen of country music at this point. And then I'm going to have someone join Patreon just to tell me Garth Brooks is the most amazing. Look, he has sold more records, I think, than anyone else. I don't know. Maybe the Beatles have sold. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But I think Garth Brooks has actually sold more records than pretty much anybody, which is kind of sad because it's a genre where I think he was authentic at the beginning, and then he became less and less interested, like he was bored with all of the rednecks and all the people that he was attracting to his shows, and he wanted to branch out. He wanted to repent of his country-ishness, and, you know, he became kind of the darling of the ruling class because of his stances, basically making fun of the people or kind of sticking his finger in the eye of the people that have supported him over the years. Politically, he doesn't align with those people. When it comes to the medical tyranny stuff, obviously he doesn't align with those people. And he doesn't understand sometimes why people would vehemently disagree with him, but he feels his star power, his super celebrity status, gives him, I should say this word, built-in immunity from some of these attacks on other parts of his life. All right. So anyway, he was singing a tune called Ask Me How I Know, which was his latest single. And during an interview immediately after the show, Garth admitted that he had lip synced the entire performance, blaming it on being sick. They always blame it on something. Well, you know, it wasn't him. It was the fact that he was around someone else who made him. This was back in those days. He contracted this from someone else who wasn't fully thinged. Of course, that wasn't a thing back in 2017, but now it can be. So he'd have a new excuse, but he's blaming it on being sick and in the midst of 12 shows in 10 days. It's a lot of shows in 10 days, right? First thing I would do is spread those shows out a bit. Why are you doing 12 shows in 10 days? That's kind of dumb. You're Garth Brooks. You could do one show a month if you wanted to. And because you're such a big super mega star, people would show up. He says, this is just, we did a game time call. It's like a sport, okay? Before we hit the stage, let's figure this out. We're going to do a call on whether I should sing or lip sync. We decided to lip sync. And this sentence, this is one of the worst sentences I've heard uttered by a country musician, because the voice is just not there. And you want to represent country music the best you can. What? So if the voice isn't there, you call off the performance. You say, I can't do it. Sorry. People will say, wow, Garth bailed. Or you tough it out. One of the things that I at least admire about rock bands and country musicians who've, you know, lost a step or two, right? They go out there and they compensate, they try, They might sing something in a lower key in a certain place. And Billy Joel, who is really good friends with Garth Brooks, says it's kind of like throwing an off-speed curveball instead of a fastball. And people eventually are going to start to notice it if you're only throwing off-speed stuff. In this case, apparently, Garth didn't even want to use Billy Joel's advice. Billy Joel said that a number of years ago because, you know, you write these songs when you're a young man and your voice is much different and you can hit all these high notes and it's not a big problem. But imagine saying, I just want to represent country music the best I can by lip syncing. And then the article says, okay, Garth. But it wasn't just the fans who blasted Garth on Twitter. So did fellow Entertainer of the Year nominee Eric Church, who ends up losing to Garth Brooks, who lip synced the show. So Eric Church tells Rolling Stone, we don't use machines. We use instruments. Boom. All right. So again, if you didn't like Eric Church before this, now you should probably go and purchase some Eric Church merchandise. Look, Eric Church is not one of these bro country dudes. He's fairly authentic, and he's current. Garth Brooks is not. And look, I root for the old guys all the time, but if the old guys are lip syncing and the current Entertainer of the Year nominee, who should have been Entertainer of the Year, Eric Church, isn't lip syncing, well, then he wins by default. He is the de facto winner. I would just say, okay, one guy can't sing, the other guy can sing. Give it to the guy who can sing, you know? Those are the standards. So he goes on, this is a great sentence too. So the winner of the biggest category of the night lip synced in the biggest moment on the show. So Eric Church says, let's go, Brandon. And I didn't like his excuse at all. Of course, he didn't say it that way, but he said, bleep that. And I didn't like his excuse at all. It's a red line that I will not cross. It's fabricated. I don't want young artists thinking it's okay because it's not. And the article goes on to say, gotta love Eric Church. You always know exactly where he stands. And it's usually on the side of his fans. By the way, that wouldn't be the last time Eric called out Garth either. After he was robbed of the Entertainer of the Year award during the 2019 CMAs, Eric took another not so subtle shot at Garth during a show that followed the week of the performance, doing Waylon Jennings' Are You Sure Hank Done It This Way, changing the lyrics to I Know Garth Didn't Do It This Way. Well, and this is unbelievable too. All the controversy must have been too much for Mr. We're All One Big Happy Family Garth, because the following year he announced that he was taking himself out of contention for Entertainer of the Year, an award that would finally go to Eric Church in 2020. So because Garth said no, right? And this is how far up Garth's you-know-what the CMAs are, that he had to say, you know what, guys, I knew you're going to give it to me again because I'm Garth Brooks, and I really don't have to do anything anymore to win these awards. But maybe you should give it to the guy who can sing and who's got current music out there and who seems to be a little upset with me because, you know, I'm representing country music by lip syncing. That's a thing I needed to do in 2017 because I want to represent country music. Look, country music fans, you know, it's kind of like the Bloody Sock episode at Fenway Park with Curt Schilling. Those are the kind of people they like, that persevere, that keep pitching, that keep singing, regardless of what's happening. You'll get a standing ovation probably if you have trouble getting through the song, although Tim McGraw had some issues recently. I mean, who knows? I think it's still better to try to sing than not try to sing. Bottom line is, and I've said this in other videos recently, if you can't do this anymore, don't pretend that you can, because eventually it will catch up with you. And these guys are all going to start relying. And if country people start relying on the technology that some of these rock guys are using, it's over. I mean, you've got, and here's the good news. Out in West Texas, right, there's a thing called red dirt country, and it's been around now for quite some time, but it's very authentic. These guys play their own instruments. It's not bro country. It sometimes kind of goes into Southern rock, and all kinds of other genres are represented within the framework of country music. The one thing that's awesome about it is it's true, it's authentic, and that's you're not going to be able to convince country music fans that pop country, bro country, lip synced country is the future of country music. What will happen is the format will die because country music fans aren't going to put up with it, and a new format will rise up from the ashes. There are several radio stations in Texas that play red dirt music all day long, and it's way more, it's more authentic, as I keep saying, but it's just better. It's just better. You know, if I'm going to listen to country, I want it to sound like country. I know not everybody likes country music. I do, because it's purely Americana and represents the working class people of this country and the forgotten man and woman. It's something we need. And if you start to mess with it and you start to make it into like a beauty pageant or something that it's not, and you know, if you're faking your way through it, I'm sorry, you can do that. If you're one of these pop divas, you can do it and nobody's really going to be that mad. But the country music people, they're not going to forgive you. And even if you're Garth Brooks, you can't get away with this stuff. So interesting stuff. Eric Church, Garth Brooks. It shows you, by the way, too, that this lip syncing thing, it's going to become more pervasive. It's AI. And once people are fooled a few times, it's kind of like a drug addiction. Really? We fooled him? Well, we can fool him again. And this will be easy. And we don't have to work as hard. And soon it'll just be a Garth hologram that's up there. And people will go see and pay for it. It's crazy. But people like me, I will continue to sound the alarm that real music matters. And we're going to keep supporting those artists like Eric Church, who believe in real music in real time for real people, just like you and just like me. All right. I finished the way I started the video, except I'm bumbling and stumbling here. So I'm going to go. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.